Hey, what is up? It's TJ here. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about the truth about youth sports and my journey as a coach, and also why AAU is broken. Here's the question: What is really going on in youth sports for real though? What's going on in youth sports? If you have a child, you may have been around it recently. If you don't have a child, maybe you have not been around it. But there's a whole world out there of youth sports, and it's getting crazy out here. But I want to talk about why I got inspired to start coaching youth sports and start helping out the youth. And I coach football and basketball, and honestly, it isn't about football or basketball for me. It's a lot of this is about life. Like, are we teaching these kids life lessons, and are we teaching them early so that they can make an impact in their community, and we can make an impact in their lives? What are we teaching these kids? Let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about my journey as a youth coach. Why did I get started? How did I get started coaching youth sports? I coach football and basketball. I am not a football coach, but I do coach football. There's a difference. And I think a lot of people who coach, they don't understand this. I am a basketball coach. I know basketball. I study basketball. I've experienced basketball. Basketball was my first love as a sport. Now, I also coach football, but I am not a football coach. I played football, but I am not a football coach. I do not love the sport of football, and I don't know the ins and outs of the sport of football, but I do know how to coach. There's a distinct difference. And a lot of times when I am in a coaching position, in regards to football, I defer to other people who know more about the sport than I do. Very important thing to do. I by far don't know anything, or I don't know everything about either of the sports, basketball or football. And you got to have some type of wherewithal of who you are, what you know, how well you know it, and be willing to sacrifice yourself and your ego for the good of the kids. I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. So let's talk. That's why I got into. That's how and why I got into youth sports, because I experienced just that. My son, playing flag football. Well, I have three boys, right? So all three of them were in sports before, for my son Carter. So Carter is my youngest son. Chance is my middle son, and Jaden is my oldest son. When I started when Jaden started, doing youth sports, I was very reluctant to help out and reluctant to get involved. And the reason for that is because I didn't think I was prepared mentally. I felt like I was crazy. Like I was like, I hope, like, I don't trust myself to be, not overly competitive. I wanted to make sure that like these kids had they needed good people around them that were not going to be super competitive, right? And I am a super competitive person. I want to win, but not at all costs. I want to win. When I step onto the floor, or I'm coaching a team, I want to win more than anybody else in the room. Now, I thought that I would be a crazy person, because sports brings the crazy out of people. And so I was like, you know what? I think it's just better for me to just sit on the side and just allow other people to pour into my child. And so that worked with soccer. Jaden did soccer, Chance did soccer, Carter did soccer. Then Jaden got involved in a little bit of basketball. And, he kind of liked it, kind of didn't like it. And I'm just sitting on the side, just, hey, just go have fun. And then, Chance got involved in basketball. And he had a good first season. I don't think the coach really knew what he was doing. But then he had a second year in basketball. It's like, I really don't think the coach knows what he's doing. It's the same coach. Then he had a third year in basketball. I'm like, these kids should be getting better by now. Like, what's going on here? These kids, you're teaching them the same thing over and over again. And you're not getting better as a coach. The kids aren't getting better. You had these same kids for 3 years and they're not getting any better. All right. Now, so at this point, I done sat out of coaching for 3 years. And the third year was the year that I decided to get involved. And it actually stemmed not from basketball, but from football. I experienced my son having a good coach the first year in football. And then the second year, that coach left. And this is flag football. That coach left, and then another coach came in. And what I experienced was not so much, bad coaching. I think it was more so just like a combination of things. Being a first year coach, not really knowing the lay of the land, and then just having a lot of life things going on. And I just felt like it just wasn't a good situation for my son to be in. So we decided to switch locations. When we switched locations or switched teams, it was just because I wanted him to be just in a better situation where, one, he wasn't the best kid on the team. I wanted him to be around more competition. And then two, I wanted him to have a better coaching situation. So I heard about this other place that it had some good coaching, and I get there and there's two guys just just walking around like, hey man, I don't really know what to do. Anybody know how to run some offense? Or hey, they told me, hey, they looked at me, they told me you coach, you think you could coach this team? I'm like, yo, we out here, kids is ready to practice. Y'all was a little late. We was here before y'all. You the coach, and you telling me you don't. So I was like, you know what? We can't have these kids out here, not having no organization, not knowing what to do, not having. I was like, look, I'll help out. I can't fully commit, but I'll help out. And so I ended up helping out and ended up basically being the head coach, because there were days where other coaches wouldn't show up. I'll be the only one out there. And I started to really feel like it was kind of like a rug pull for real. But anyway, I ended up being a head coach. The parents ended up liking me and then requesting for me to come back. So I'm like, oh, here we go. And so, the kids liked me, they responded well to me. Honestly, I think what I discovered from that situation was that if I, when I rally kids together, they respond well to me, and I guess the way that I speak to them, and the way that I kind of, relate to them. And I think that is something that coaches need. And sometimes, I feel like actually a lot of times, it's the people who are kind of reluctant to do something that may be better at doing those things. And so, that's kind of how I got into it. And coaching has taught me a lot of things about myself, about the people, about kids, about leadership, patience, development. And like I said before, I want to win. I want to win. I'm the most competitive person you'll see, but I do not allow competition to dictate my decisions or change who I am. And so when I got into this, I was like, I got to have some type of, foundation of like what I believe is success. And success is not winning. It's not winning. That's one of the things that I've come to realize. Success is not winning, because if the goal is to win and you were outmanned, outnumbered, athleted, then what are you doing, right? And so I always found structure in saying that the goal is not to win. The goal is to get better each day. The goal is to set an objective and a goal, and every day move one step, two steps towards that goal. And that goal is giving your best effort. That goal is, putting your best foot forward. That goal is giving it everything you got. That goal is, listening. It's a lot of the fundamental things that is the goal. And if you do those fundamental things every single day, if you do them consistently, then the result is winning. You will win. Now, there will come a time where you will be outnumbered. There will come a time where you will be outplayed because, someone just has more skill than you. And that just means that it just wasn't your season, right? And I think the best part of youth sports is that you get to instill and teach the youth those things, like those life skills, right? The worst part is that you're surrounded a lot of times, especially in this youth sport environment, you're surrounded a lot of times with people who do not share that same thought process. That this is not, look, I'm trying to win at all costs. You have those people around you as well. And they will do anything, including cheat, including steal, including, guard children on their team to win. And that is what I am not willing to do. I am not willing to disregard children and parents who bring their children to me. They entrust their children and their children's time to me. I actually had a parent stop me the other day at Kroger, and I was leaving there. I was getting some Valentine's Day stuff, and she was like, "Yeah, are you coaching next year?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm planning on coaching. I want to. If things align and I have time, I'll be your son's coach. I'll be on the staff and I'll be helping out for sure." And so she was like, "Good, because my son, he doesn't want to do it unless you're the coach." And she was like, "For real, it takes a lot for him to like somebody." And I was like, if my baby wants you to be the coach, that says a lot." And I've had that experience quite a bit, of, parents kind of appreciating just like having someone who actually cares about their child, and seeing their children understand yo, this dude actually, he cares about me. And I feel like once you get kids to do that, they realize that you actually care about them, they'll listen and do what you need them to do. They will rally themselves together. They want to make you proud, because they know that, hey, this guy just doesn't care about the sport. He actually cares about me. And that's the part that actually is missing today in youth sports, because all of this stuff is volunteer work. Let's not get this wrong. Let's not get this twisted. Majority of these people out here are not getting paid to coach these kids. So you are a volunteer. It don't matter how many championships or whatever you won or you think you won. It's youth sports. Nobody's going to remember that. Nobody cares, right? Like you're not some world renowned coach. I done had somebody tell me that before. Like, yeah, I won. I done won a championship here. Man, don't nobody care about that. These kids is 8 and 9 years old. That's great that you won a championship, but I think what's even better is that a kid will come and say, "Hey, that's Coach TJ." Even when I'm not their coach or they're on another team, they're running up to me, giving me a hug, dapping me up. What's up, Coach TJ? They on another team. I'm coaching another team. They're coming over to me. And it's like, those are the things that really matter. Like, how much impact are you having on these kids' lives on a daily basis? Not just whether you won a game or not. Like, yeah, we're going to win games. We're going to win games. But I want my kids to win at life. Like, I want them to develop habits and healthy habits that they're going to be able to take with them, down the line. I want them to understand, like, hey, like the things that Coach TJ taught me, if I apply that same thing to this, I can kind of do whatever. I can do anything, right? And so that's the basis. That's why, I started coaching. Also, the byproduct is that I get to have these experiences with my son. I am raising my son in that environment, and I'm instilling confidence in him through coaching. It's been a hard journey with that as well. But what is the state of youth sports today? What is the state of that? It's crazy out here in these youth sports streets. Youth sports has changed quite a bit over the years. Now, so like, and it might not have changed. Maybe I'm just from a different area, and they may have changed it in that area. But like, I'm from Newport News. I'm from the 757. If you don't know what it is, that's the Tidewater area. That's where Michael Vick is from. That's where Iverson is from. That's where Plaxico Burress is from. That's where, like, Ronald Kerr. There's a whole list of people, athletes that have came from that area, and I know why. Like, competition in that area, and this is what's crazy. It's like, and when I'm trying to get people to understand, like, the area that we live in now, like, these schools are 20 and 30 minutes from each other, right? Where I was from, the schools were 15 and 10 minutes from each other. Densely populated area, a lot of kids, a lot of competition. And so rec league basketball, rec league sports, they had tryouts. You had to try out. They would put a number on your shirt. All right, man, go make a free throw. Or like, shoot some free throws, shoot some jump shots. You all right? This is a combine. I was 8 years old, and I got people like, yo, how many did he make? All right, we're gonna rank him here. All right, you up next. All right, we drafted them. Hey, who you picking up? Who you got, coach? Like, you was on the chopping block. Like, so with that type of atmosphere, you better show up, you better show out, you better impress somebody out here. The pressure was on you. This is 7, 8 years old. And so I remember I got picked up to a rec league team, and I was decent, I was decent. I really love basketball. I was always grinding. I would go out, I would drive my bike, down to the elementary school, and there'll be old heads out there smoking, hooping, and I was out there hooping with them. I don't think my parents knew where I was at, but I was out there hooping. I ride my bike out there, and you didn't even know people was gonna be out there. You tried to ride your bike out there and just see, like, hey, is they out there? All right, we gonna hoop. Like, we had to go out. You had to go to the court and say, yo, who got next? Can I run with you? Like that, even that interaction, you had to want to play bad enough to go ask someone who had next. I think the state of youth sports is missing that element, right? The state of youth sports is missing that element because there was pressure. There was pressure put on you, or you put that pressure on yourself, right? And because you wanted to get better. You want to make the team, you had to try out. So you had to find a way to get better. How do you get better? Go hoop with everybody else. I don't even know if anybody told me to do that. I just knew that there was a basketball over there. People were hooping. And if I wanted to play basketball, I needed to go over there and hoop. And those kids that have that desire to go do that will exceed in that sport. The problem is that the kids don't have the desire, and there's not a cutoff of kids who have the desire and kids who don't. There's plenty of other things you can do other than, like, I think there's plenty of other things that is available for kids to do. And just because you want to play basketball doesn't mean you should. Just because you have the money to play basketball doesn't mean you should. And I think the problem is we have a lot of people who are coming to these environments and wanting their kid to have something that they have not earned, that they don't deserve, and that they have not been tested for. And honestly, they could be spending their time doing something else. And so I think we're trying to make this like environment where everybody can come and everybody can play and everybody can do this and everybody can do that. And it doesn't work. And in fact, it lowers the quality and the expectation. But it increases the expectation of those who are coming in, who are paying their money, who expect because they paid their money, they should play. They expect because they paid their money, they should get on the field, they should do this, and they should do that. And your money does not equate to your skill level, your hard work, or your effort. It does not. And so the question is, what are we teaching the kids, right? Are you teaching the kids that if you work hard, if you work on your game, if you get off the video games and you go outside and you start working on your game, you could possibly make the team. But if you don't do those things, you won't make the team. Are we teaching them that? Or are we teaching them, hey, do you want to do this? Okay, I'm gonna pay them some money, and then you gonna play, and then they better put you on the team. They better let you play, and they better let you do this. I don't think that's the right way to go. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. And so now there's a common misconception that there was, like, there's more pressure now on the kids to be better younger. I don't 100% agree with that, right? I think there was more pressure back in the day when there was more pressure to either get better or get gone. Either you get better or you get gone. And you learned early on whether that was you or wasn't you. Go do something else. This ain't for you. Do you want it? Okay, go do it. If you don't, man, go over there. Right? Now people are like, yeah, there's pressure for kids to be better younger because kids are getting better younger. But that doesn't mean that there's any pressure for your kid to get better younger. Like, your kid doesn't have to do it. Your kid he can go do something else. Right? And I think there needs to be that standard of like, hey, like, if this is not for you, this is not for you. Go do something else. Everybody doesn't need to play basketball. Everybody doesn't need to play football. Everybody doesn't need to, there's plenty of other sports. And so I think parents and coaches are shaping the game, and some are shaping it for better and some are shaping it for worse. I think parents are a lot of parents can shape the atmosphere for worse. Why? Because they're willing to pay the money. They're willing to pay for AAU sports and things like that. to get their kid on a team. And it doesn't work. You just can't pay your way to the top. The kid has to want it. I know a ton of kids who parents pay for training, they pay for the AAU, but the kid don't want it. And it's because you're paying for everything, but the kid don't want it. He don't want the smoke. He don't want he don't want to get on the court. He don't want to be aggressive. He don't want to do none of that stuff. If you don't want to be aggressive, man, let's just go. We can go do something else. Like, save my money. We go somewhere else, man. Like, I'm not I'm not doing it. And then we also have we have those parents who are paying that money and expecting their kid to have something because they're paying that money. I also don't think that coaches should allow, especially AAU, they should not allow, and I'll get into AAU a little bit more, but they should not allow parents to pay, and they know good and well that kid is not, is not ready. AAU used to be a standard. I used to play for Boo Williams back in the day. I played for Boo. You had to try out. But not only did you had to try out, you had to get invited to the tryout. How did you get invited to the tryout? You had to show out at a rec league game somewhere else, and somebody had to see you and be like, yo, you need to come try out for Boo. You had to get the invitation to try out. And then tried out, you had to show out at the tryouts to make it the team. And then when you made the team, there was no guarantee that you were going to play. No guarantee. I was scoring 20 points a game, 24 points a game in rec league. Got invited out to it was like 20, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 24 points. I was invited out to play for Boo and made the team, made the trials. On the squad, we practicing, blah, blah, blah. We make it to nationals. We placed in like the top 10 in nationals. I was know it was like, it was top 10. I don't know. We ended up finishing top 10. I was scoring 20-some points a game in rec league. I did not play half of those games for Boo. I was on the bench. And so I had you either got to get better or you got to get gone. I was traveling to Florida and I was sitting on the bench. That was an experience. And so I had a couple of experiences as I was growing up that shaped my basketball career. One of those experiences is that a coach told me, "Hey, TJ, like you've been killing at these low, like you was killing in rec, you killing in JV, but for real, I don't see nothing about your game that makes me want to move you up to varsity right now." I was like, dang. I was in ninth grade, you know what I'm saying? I'm playing JV, and I was kind of upset that I didn't move up to varsity because when my homeboys moved up early, but I was stuck down JV. I'm doing well, like 14, 15 points a game, JV. But he looks at me like, hey, there's nothing about your game that makes me want to bring you up to varsity. And at the time, I didn't appreciate that. And it pulled me down. I didn't know how to handle it. And so I think that really shaped my career because I ended up like trying to learn more about, I ended up trying to be, I was like, well, I'm gonna just be a better shooter because it looked like, they need a shooter. So I'm gonna be a better shooter. So I started focusing on shooting, and then that kind of took away from the other elements of my game. And honestly, I never recovered from that interaction. And that is the statement that kind of stuck with me. But I also did not have anyone in my corner to help me through that. My dad, very supportive. Mom, very supportive. But they weren't like super involved in my basketball like journey, like my development, right? They gave me the tools, they gave me the resources, and they was like, hey, go do what you do, and we'll be at the game to support you. And my dad was a very busy guy, working quite a bit, and mom was busy, working and going to school and all that, so they were able to supply everything I needed. But I think one of the things that I did need is a coach, or someone there to help me understand what that meant, and like what that coach said to me, what it meant, and how to process it. Right, I was not ready to process it, and what happened for me was I shut down, because I felt like I had reached my heights, and I did not reach my heights. I went from killing to, being okay, to averaging 10 points a game in varsity, to then averaging about like 8 or 9 points a game on varsity, to then my senior year, I had to come off the bench and basically be the sixth man, because there was someone who was just as talented as me, but 6'3", right? And I wasn't 6'3". And so I kind of let my game kind of take a back seat, and I wasn't working hard. I wasn't doing and so I needed somebody to push me. I needed somebody to help me understand the landscape, and I didn't have that. And so, but again, the sport will weed out those people. At that time, I was not that person who really, really wanted it. Again, my parents paid for the stuff. My parents helped. They paid for they had the resources to do it. But I didn't want it bad enough. And so that's what I'm trying to teach the kids today. It's like, if you want something bad enough and you're willing to work for it, then you can go get it. But at the same time, if you don't want it bad enough and you're not willing to work for it, you won't get it. An important lesson to understand and know. Now, why do I hate AAU basketball? So I had my own experiences with AAU when I was younger. Remember, you had to try out. You had to be invited to the tryout. Then you had to try out, and then you made the team, and then there was no guarantee that you would play. I had that experience when I was younger. The experience today is you can find a team. Anybody will take you. As long as you pay your money, you on a team. And that to me is an atrocity. Because what are we really doing here? Are we trying to showcase talent? Are we trying to have an elite level, league where there's the elite players, or are we just trying to let everybody who can dribble the ball play and be on the team? And I think it has brought down the quality and level of play of AAU basketball. Kids are getting better. There are really good kids out there. But there's a couple of factors that AAU basketball, the environment, doesn't allow for kids to really develop. I believe AAU is for showcasing. I think it's for showcasing. The problem is that now you can just pay your way to play and showcase, and it's not earned. There's no pride there anymore for AAU. I remember when you played AAU, you was elite. Like AAU, you ain't you was elite. You was the talk of the town when you put on your you had your bag. I'm talking about what I'm saying. what we talking about? Play AAU. Everybody play AAU now, man. Like everybody. I had a friend of mine talking about like let's get this team together. Let's take your rec team and let's put them like that's not AAU. And so like what I realized, so I ended up coaching an AAU team not too long ago, and what I realized was that I cannot bring what I am trying to do to the sport in that environment. Like that environment doesn't allow for you to actually develop the kids. And that's what I stand for. I want to develop kids. I want to make sure that kids understand that there is a standard to this stuff. There's a standard to life, there's a standard to sports, and if you meet that standard, you could do well. If you don't meet that standard, then you will not do well. And that's a lesson in life that young men really have to learn, and I feel like they have to learn that early. And so there's a real lack in AAU of the understanding of like keeping the main thing. I had one AAU game where, this is third grade. AAU kids end up scrapping. We got to pull the kids. Hey, you know what I'm saying? They scrapping in the middle of the game. And everybody wanted to continue on. The ref wanted to continue on. One of the refs wanted to continue on. Coach wanted to continue on. Like, hey, we good, let's keep hooping. And I'm like, let's keep hooping. Like, what are we doing here? If the kids is scrapping in the middle of the game, what are we doing? Like, you will not convince me that is normal, and I will never accept that as normal. If kids start to scrapping during a basketball game, the game is over. So I called the game. I said, look, hey, coach, I appreciate you, but we're done. Like, let's dap it up. We're going to go home. Because if we continue playing, then we're glossing over the fact that these kids could not control their emotions enough to play a basketball game without fighting each other. And to me, if we in here fighting, ain't no basketball need to be playing. We don't need playing these kids don't need to be playing basketball. These kids need to take these kids off the court. And I think what's happening is that we're allowing a lot of that stuff to become normal. And it's not normal for kids to be scrapping. Third grade kids to be trying to fight and throw hands at a basketball game. Yeah, basketball is physical, all that other stuff, but you got to be able to control your emotions. And if you can't do that, you don't need to be on the court. If you can't do that, we got a lot of work to do at home. And that's where it starts. The parents, the coaches, everybody has to be on the same, to me, everybody has to be on the same page as to what are we doing here. And I promise you, if a kid is scrapping at a game, he ain't going to make it. He is not going to make it. A coach is going to look at him and already see that his attitude is not enough. And there's plenty of kids out here. I might as well pick a kid without an attitude. Yeah, you're good, but you got a bad attitude. I'm going to pick somebody else. What are we doing here? And that's the environment of AAU basketball. So I'm not going back to AAU. Not until my son or whoever is ready to showcase themselves, right? When we're ready to showcase, then we'll show up for AAU. But there's plenty of other things that I would like to do in youth sports moving forward. I want to create leagues. I want to create, that, allow kids to have a good experience. And it becomes difficult because a lot of parents are misinformed. They have high expectations and they're getting subpar, results and experiences. I understand the parents, you paid your money, And your expectation was that your kid would play. And the problem there is that a lot of coaches won't tell you in advance that just because you pay doesn't mean you get to play. And a lot of coaches, because they will take your money so that they can continue doing their program, but they won't tell you that, yeah, your kid's not good enough to play. And I can see how that, as a parent, you feel bamboozled. That's why there needs to be tryouts. If a kid is not good enough, he should not be able to play. But the problem is the AAU teams, they want their money. They want their money. So why would I have tryouts if, like, why don't I let's just skip the tryouts. If the kid want to play, let's let him play. So I just feel like, these kids are also not learning to compete for a position, right? They're jumping from AAU team to AAU team, just trying to find a place where they can be the man. And that doesn't make you the man by just finding a spot to be the man. Like, it makes you the man to be better than the man, right? That's why I moved my son over to the other football team, because there were kids who were talented over there, and he has to compete for his spot now. You got to compete. You got to do what you got to do to get on that field. And it's important for you to experience that you're not the best. You got to work. So I really do feel like parents and coaches, we just got to do better to provide that experience. I think the role of a parent in child or like children's development as in their athletic journey is to support. You gotta be a support system, and you have to, be on board with what the coach's objective is. If you have a kid on a team and you have not spoken with the coach, I think you're putting yourself in a bad position. You and the coach should have a conversation, and you should understand what the coach's intention is for the kid and what his objectives are for the team. And your child should be understanding that there are some things that they need to work on, they need to improve at to be in a better position on that team. And your job as a parent is to help support the child and understand what his role is. Hey, on this team, your role is to help do this. And that's your job. Now, are you doing your job? And are you doing your job well? Be the emotional support for the child and help the child, but don't keep the child back from the experience. They have to experience these things in order to get better and come to terms with what's going on. And sometimes this takes patience. And then there's the coaches failing kids by just focusing on winning. And there's kids around here that have tools and the ability to help you win. But you have to find out what those things are. You can't just look at the best kids and be like, okay, like, all right, these are my kids. This is what I'm gonna rock with. Everybody else, y'all are useless. You can't do that, coach. You can't do that. And the reason why you can't do that is because we are a team, right? If you have a team, that means that everyone has a responsibility on that team. Whether it's the responsibility of, being the point guard, starting point guard, or being the backup point guard, or whether it's the responsibility of going in and getting some of the starters some quality rest by coming in and giving us some quality minutes on defense. You might not get out there and score, but you can play some quality defense. All defense is effort. Maybe your job is just to get someone else some rest. That is a job, though. That is a responsibility. And coaches need to allow kids to understand their role, understand their responsibility, and allow them to contribute to the team's success, with that responsibility. And so this is important. This is important to understand, because I feel like Coaches and parents have to be on the same page for providing a opportunity for the kids. I do feel like kids need to fail. They need to fail early, and they need to fail often, and they need to have tryouts. And we need to stop protecting kids from having these hard lessons, because the moment they get into that situation, you can try to protect them for as long as you want, but there will be a time where you can no longer protect them. And one great scenario of this is we have kids right now in rec league, and they're playing in rec league, and they don't allow defense past the 3-point line, and they have all these rules and regulations to try to keep the kids like, and I'm like, hold on now, like these kids in 1 to 2 years will be going to middle school, and in middle school they have tryouts, and all the kids want to make their middle school team. The middle school team here has like 100 and some kids try out. They only take 15. And so are you setting your kid up for success by, sheltering him from what he's going to experience 2 years from now? Put him on a team where all you got to do is pay for it. And you can play. Or should he be failing, up until the goal? Like, should he be trying to try out and not make it or whatever, and understanding what a tryout feels like before the big one comes, where he has to try out for the middle school team. And if he does not make it, where there's 100 kids trying out for 15 spots, what do you think that does to that kid's confidence? His whole world is going to change, right? But we have to prepare him for that experience, or her for that experience. It doesn't just happen just because you want it to happen. It doesn't just happen because you're willing to pay for it. It happens because you were willing to work for it. It happens because you put the work in, and now you are seeing the results. And so I can go on and on about this. I've been talking about this for a minute, to be honest with you. But I'm gonna close with this, and I feel like, me personally as a coach, the goal isn't to win every game. The goal is to prepare these kids for the real world. That's it. The real world only has 15 spots on the middle school team. If you're not one of those 15 kids, you won't make the team. That's the real world. And so the goal isn't to just win every game. The goal is to prepare the kids for what they will experience in life. If you work for it, if you want it bad enough, you can have it. I also want to just encourage the kids to kind of, not the kids, well, actually the kids, the parents, and the coaches to shift their mindset a little bit. Just shift the mindset to keeping the main thing. Basketball is a wonderful sport. Football is a wonderful sport. It's great, but it isn't everything. It's not everything. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts is. What is your biggest issue with youth sports today? And, hopefully I can get back to this discussion with a guest. And hopefully that guest is someone who I'm really excited to talk to, and hopefully I'm inspired by. Hopefully we can get that going. I'm gonna keep it a secret because I don't know if it will happen. It may happen, it may not, but Lord willing, it does. I'll see you guys in the next one. Leave a comment below.